Although I saw similarities in both of the places that I worked, mostly in Panama, I was working with environmental issues and women's groups, and in Southern Africa I was working in education and also working with youth groups, teenagers, and especially working with the girls, because I found that in both places the females, they didn't have as many opportunities, and I felt that that was something that I could really be a model for. It was really strange for the community people to see a female. I was 25 years old at the time, unmarried, educated, living by myself in these far-off communities, and for them it was really strange. You know, it's like by the time women are about, at least by the time they're 17 or 18, they're normally married and have kids and are taking care of the house and don't really have opportunities for education. So I felt that that's something that I could be a good model for. So that's really what I spent my time with. And today I want to talk mostly about my time in Panama, because I think it really was a good balance of working with the people in the area, but also working with the environment. So I was working with a local tribe. Panama was settled by the Spanish, so there's a big Latin American influence there, but there also were many tribal groups, and I was working with a tribal group, two tribal groups. One was called Nyabe and one was called Bugle, and they lived in small, tiny little subsistence farming communities. Some of them lived along the rivers in the jungles there. Some of them lived higher up in the mountain areas. And to get from place to place was very difficult. I used to have to take horses and little canoes and walking on these little sticks and tiny little bridges. So getting around was quite difficult, but that just kind of gave me an idea of what everyday life was for the people living in the communities. And like I said, one thing that I found that I could be a good example for the women there, because women there had they had very little opportunities, and so I started a couple of women's groups. And after talking to the community in general, I found that they needed help with nutrition, because malnutrition was a big problem. Many children dying of malnutrition. And so, although I was there, at first I was like, oh, education, oh, it's so important, I'm going to see what I can do about education. And I realized that first we had to help people get healthy. And that was something that was my first goal will be to see what I can do to help this nutrition problem. So when I was working with the women's groups, we started a couple of projects to provide that nutrition. We started some gardening projects. We also started what I call a chicken project. So I was helping the women there make connections on where they could get seeds, where they could get money or loans for getting these little chickens, helping them so that after I left, they would be able to continue these projects. They weren't just relying on me getting all of that. They learned how to do that themselves. And in the time that I was there, the women really were motivated and mobilized and became this really strong group. And at the time, the indigenous rights were being threatened by the Panamanian government, because what was happening is they were selling off the very rich land that they were living very simply on. And so, unfortunately, the indigenous people in the area, they didn't speak Spanish. They didn't know because they didn't speak Spanish, and Spanish was the official language, and all of the laws were written in Spanish. They didn't really know what their rights were. They didn't really understand what was theirs, and the government was really taking advantage of them because they wanted the land. And so by helping the communities realize what their rights were, and helping them with learning Spanish, and helping to give them just some personal self-esteem that yes, I can make a difference for my community. They were able to go into some of these meetings with the government and say, this is our land. It's our right to farm this land as we want. It's our right to have this to protect our own environment. And what was happening is there's a large copper mine that is one of the largest in the world that was lying under the land of the Nyobe, and the government really wanted it. And with the mining, people thought, okay, we're very poor communities. There's this malnutrition, and money to feed our kids would be important. But with mining brought a lot of environmental destruction, and so there were many environmental groups that were trying to help the Nyobe people understand, if the government comes in and mines this area, once all of the copper is gone, this land isn't going to be it's not going to be usable. You're not going to be able to farm on it as usual. So there's that tie between protecting the environment, but protecting also the culture of the people that were living there. So during the 2 years that I was living there, I was trying to help people understand understand the importance of taking care of the environment, which again, it's very difficult if you're living day to day just for survival, thinking that far forward on, okay, what's the land going to be like next year, what it's going to be like 5 years from now. It's difficult to imagine that when you're surviving day by day. And it's again, trying to help people understand what their rights were, what their claim to the land was, and helping to empower the women to be able to have a voice in the bigger community, and helping the children as well, because with their basic rights and their basic needs for having food every day, having the opportunity for a good education, especially for the women. And that's kind of living there for 2 years, and I lived right alongside of the people that were, if they were hungry, then I was definitely hungry also. So being able to experience what that feels like, and understand that even when I would go to some of these meetings, I was just like, oh, she's just a girl, she doesn't know what she's talking about, feeling that I wasn't empowered because of my gender as well. It really inspired me to keep on working with some of these issues, and to really want to continue to try to help people make a difference, but help them make a difference for themselves, help giving them the tools to be able to continue this after I left. And so